Welcome to the Cold War, Ray, episode 307.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Senator. My client will not take any questions at this time.
I plead the fifth, and I'd like a fifth. Scotch, please. Thank you.
Ray, what we want to know
Yeah.
is have you been having an affair with Corey Lewandowski? That's all I want to know. Are you banging Corey Lewandowski?
Look, I'm insulted that you would even ask that question. We have so many things to focus on. There's so many things that we have to clean up from the Biden administration that to even take the time to answer that would be a waste. I could be working. So again,
that's not a no. Just a yes or no. Ray is all
Did you
notice?
Did you notice that I didn't say no? Because that's not what I want to draw your attention to. The Dow, up until we started this war, the Dow was at 50,000. Now it's not, it's 45. But
yes or no.
Focus.
All I need is a yes or no.
Yes.
Thank
you for your time
with that barn animal.
Thank you for your time, Senator. That's good. She never said no. She
no.
never said no.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. You know that already. Yeah, that's the whole point.
Yeah. So in our last episode, Castro, at the end of our last episode, Castro finally took on the role of Prime Minister of the country.
He got a promotion.
It was evident to everyone that nothing could happen unless Castro gave the nod, and the government was having to rescind decisions that they made around getting rid of gambling and prostitution because Castro said, actually, that you're getting a little bit ahead of yourself there.
Exactly.
So he's now officially running the country. But that doesn't necessarily mean that everything's going to run smoothly. Because, well, A, look, there's a lot to get done and it's a complicated situation. B, these guys that are now running the country have never run a country before. And C, Castro's temperament was a bit of an issue.
Yeah. What is it, technocrat? Is that the word I'm looking for? He was not. He was an idea guy. He certainly cared, but caring and loving your country does not somehow manifest into strict, great, beautiful, brilliant, big league policies that are consistently executed and followed. Governing is very boring because it takes a certain mentality, whatever. This guy's a dreamer. He wants the best for his country, but the day in and day out, I don't know if that's a strong suit.
Well, look, he ran the revolution.
That's true.
A lot of organizational requirements when you're running a revolution, but he also had a lot of commanders that he was delegating stuff to, who knew what the gig was. This is a little bit different, but he would often be several hours late for appointments. I think in a previous episode, we talked about how Ruby Hart, the American journalist there, went for a meeting with him not long after the Batista regime was gone, and she and her colleagues just had to wait around for hours before he turned up for the meeting.
Yeah. He loves to talk to people. He loves to give speeches and talk to people. And remember, he's still riding around in his Jeep, just talking to people because he is one of the people, and it's very important to him. So I think it would be very hard for him to give that up.
And if you want an example of that, I think I mentioned this on a few episodes ago. There's this great clip of him being interviewed by who's the guy? Ed
Sullivan.
The Beatles. Ed Sullivan. Thank you. Ed Sullivan flew to Cuba to interview Castro after the Batista regime had ended. And he's interviewing him at like 2:30 in the morning.
Right.
And Ed Sullivan's trying to wrap it up. He's like, well, you're a very busy man. We should leave you go. And Castro just keeps talking and keeps talking. And Ed Sullivan, you can tell that he knows, like, people with guns have told him, you've only got 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Or we're going to have to shoot you.
Please don't get me shot. Yeah.
And it's 2:30 in the morning and he's wearing a suit and tie and he's hot and he's probably tired. And he's like, all right, well, thank you very much, Mr. Cat. We got to, and Castro's like, and he just keeps going and he keeps going. He's a long talker. He's a long talker.
Yeah, he's a long talker. Yeah. It's one of Seinfeld's characters. He's a long talker.
And so he would be hours late to turn up to cabinet meetings, to public events where there'd be tens of thousands of people waiting for him. Because I think he's probably a little bit indifferent to the inconvenience that he's causing people.
Yeah.
I think he had ADHD. Like
Could very well be. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for 20 years nearly, I've lived with Chrissy, and I would say, look, we've got to be there in half an hour. We have to go, and she'd
Right.
be like, "We'll go when I'm fucking ready."
See, that's
And I'm doing my hair, my makeup, and
right.
for years it was like she was like, "I don't give a fuck. We will go. Like I'm
Yeah.
busy. Don't
Yeah, we're
push
my
me.
time. We're going
Don't
on
push
my
me."
time schedule.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because 'cause I'll go even slower. Okay, just between you and me. Heather and I are very good at reverse engineering. Okay, we have to be there at 4, so we have to leave at 3, so we have to, but all that stuff. Then there's Kiki. I love that girl like a daughter, but oh my god, she can do her hair and makeup, and she changes outfits at least 15 times. I'm like, "You got a car now. You go separately. We'll meet you there." Or not. You might not ever show up, but we're gonna be on time. But no, I completely they're in their, and not in a negative way, but they're in their own world in a lot of
Yes.
sense. So it's
Well,
just
it's an ADHD thing, like time
there you
dysmorphia.
go. There you go.
They have no idea how long it takes to get ready.
Yeah,
They have no interest in the
exactly.
fact that they're
I'm
leaving
gonna go get
people
Kiki.
hanging.
Hold on. I'm gonna get you to tell her because I'm afraid.
And it took us like 15 years before we figured out that Chrissy has ADHD, and I'm like, "Oh, you're not just."
Oh, that's
uh,
such a
yeah.
oh, you weren't just
Um,
being a pain in the ass.
yeah. You
This is
literally
something
can't do this. Your
exactly,
brain cannot
exactly.
function
Yeah. So
around time horizons.
I need you to start 4 hours early. No, just start 4 hours early. Anyway,
Tried that, doesn't help. Then it'll take 5 hours, right?
because there's no problem to them. There is no issue. They don't see
Yeah.
the issue. Sorry.
Sometimes, we usually go to kung fu together, but sometimes she's not ready to go and Fox has a
Right,
class. So I will take Fox in one car and then
right.
she says she'll turn up to our class an hour or whatever later. But people are like, "Where's Chrissy?" I'm like, "Well, I had to leave. She wasn't ready. She may turn up. She may not.
She may
She
not.
may turn up late. She may completely just forget that kung fu's happening today." At one point, she'll go,
Ah,
"Where's Cameron? Oh,
right.
am I supposed to be somewhere?" It's fascinating.
Marriage is a wonderful thing. Anyway.
So I think Castro may have had ADHD,
Yeah,
because people with ADHD can be very creative and very effective if they get hyper focused. But
right.
also they tend to be big dreamers and not very good with time horizons. And I
Rick,
think
yeah,
when he
you
said
nailed him.
elections in 18 months, 18 months, 70 years, somewhere in that time window.
I mean, don't hold me to that, but I
Yeah.
feel
Don't
like
pressure
we
me.
could.
I don't like being put under pressure.
You're pissing me off. Yeah, no, because
He,
I can't remember. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
well, according to the books that I read, like he was also quite moody during this
Mm,
period. Some amateur psychologists have suggested he might have suffered from manic depression.
right.
Um, but it also could have just been a combination of ADHD and like he comes across as a very self-confident person when he speaks and it
Yeah.
takes role as a leadership. But you gotta like I do think that he had a fairly healthy sense of self-criticism and
Hmm.
self-awareness.
Yeah.
Like, again, when you read interviews with him throughout his life, he is always pretty self-critical, particularly after they, take power, but, like, he'll talk about the Moncada Barracks disaster
Right.
and how, "Yeah, I didn't think about this, I didn't think about that, I'd never overthrown a barracks before. I
Yeah.
didn't know what I was doing, I fucked up. I mean, I would do it differently now with some experience," right?
Right. Yeah.
I think that he was one of these guys that was able to be honest about his own shortcomings and his own failures, and when you take all authority on your shoulders and then things don't go well, there's no one else to blame. He
Right.
borrowed Truman's "the buck stops here" thing,
Literally.
but
Literally.
unlike
Yeah.
Truman, who would
Yeah.
then say, "The buck stops here, but you have to go because you fucked up,"
Right.
uh, no one told me about that.
Right. But he felt it. Castro felt it. And can I just,
no one told me
yeah,
that Iran might fight back. Like no one
look,
in
if I
none
had
of our
known,
meetings
if I had known
never
that they
came
were,
up. No one suggested that
yeah,
Iran might shoot
e-
missiles at neighboring bases and countries.
except for that general who did specifically,
No,
literally tell him that,
he's
but that's
lying.
all.
He never said
He's
that.
lying.
That never
Yeah,
happened.
no.
Fake news.
You got 7 witnesses. I call bullshit. I call
Yeah.
bullshit. No, but I was saying, I meant to say at the end of the last episode. So when he becomes prime minister, you've got to think that the hopes and the dreams of the people only went up. Their expectations of him. Oh, Castro's in charge now. No more fucking around. No more. There's no more layers, Jerry. He's the man in charge. You've got to think that their expectations went up, maybe as far as the quality and the speed of the improvements that he would make. I mean, I don't care how confident you are. There's probably that's a lot of pressure. I mean, I'm literally trying to make a difference in the island people's lives. I mean, I would like to think that at some point the pressure had to get to him, and again, it's what he wanted. But be careful what you ask for or what you wish for, because you just may get it. He's got it now, and I don't know. It's got to be an intense, exciting, and yet stressful time for him.
Yeah, look, I imagine there's no rest. It's a 24/7 job.
He
He's got to
can't
do it
enough.
all.
He can't do enough fast enough.
It's a bit like this is my endless complaint about Superman.
Right?
Superman's dicking around pretending to be Clark Kent, a journalist, right? Like,
He's-
don't you have more
he's
important
wasting
things
hours.
to do?
Yeah, he's
There are
wasting
people
8-10 hours
Die.
dying.
There are cats up trees
Die.
that can't get. Like, there are people dying. You could be.
Doing
There's
so
somebody
much
having
more.
a heart attack, waiting for an
Yeah.
ambulance, the
You
ER to
selfish
come.
cunt.
You could fly
Yes.
there, pick them up, take them, to a hospital.
Before the ambulance even gets
Yeah.
close to them in
What
the first
the
place. Zoom,
fuck?
zoom, zoom, zoom. Yeah.
Like, seriously, I want a Superman
Yeah.
film where
Where he's just-
people who know his true identity, like Lois
pick it up. Pick it
or
up,
Jimmy
Clark.
Olsen. I don't know
Yeah.
if Jimmy Olsen knows his identity. Whoever know, or like fucking Bruce Wayne says to him, "Motherfucker, like what? Seriously, what?
Yeah.
Why are you fucking
Yeah.
around with this Clark Kent thing? You could be saving lives."
Right.
Well, I've set up the secret identity now. No, you don't. Just say
Yeah.
Clark retired.
Yeah.
Well, how am I going to pay my bills? Well, listen, I'm Bruce Wayne. I'm a billionaire. I'll pay for your fucking rent, motherfucker. Like,
Right. Yeah. Here's a penthouse.
Turn the Fortress of Solitude into an Airbnb. Like, people can
Yeah.
go and people will pay a lot of money to stay at the Fortress of Solitude. Just
I
build a little
would.
bathroom.
I
Build a
would.
little
Yeah.
bathroom. You can build it in like 10
Yeah.
seconds. Motherfucker, you could go build houses in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And
Habitat
rent 'em
for
out.
Humanity. Yeah.
Listen,
But yeah.
like, where the fuck do you get off? Well, I'm tired. I don't like seriously.
Don't
You're tired.
Then go fly
You're
to
the
the
most
sun,
powerful
motherfucker.
being in the
Fly to the
universe,
recharge.
outside of maybe Doomsday. You're the second most
Right.
powerful person in the universe.
That's not
Like,
bad.
stop being a lazy fuck. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
Here's what shits me when I see Superman movies and no one calls him on that bullshit.
Well, and Batman could say, "Look, I need you. Your goal should be to put me out of a job. The fact that I have to go fight crime in tights. I'm a guy in tights, for fuck's sake.
I have no powers, bitch.
I have no.
I
have a
live on
black
my
credit card.
reflexes. Yeah, my credit card. I have
And I'm
cool
getting older
gadgets.
every fucking day. And I got a belt. I got a fucking utility
I
belt.
get
You're
shot
Superman.
I get
all
punched,
the time.
I get
All
kicked.
the time. Yeah. Would you
Fucking-
like to see?
I have
Yeah.
to come home every day, and then I have Michael Caine going, Master Wayne, are you really, Master Wayne, going to continue to do this as you
Yeah.
get older? Some people, Master Wayne, just want to see the world burn. You're covered in bruises, Master Wayne. Really? Where the fuck is Superman? May I ask, Master Wayne? Why the fuck? He can't get hurt, Master
What a
Wayne,
cunt.
unless
What
it's by
a cunt.
Doomsday.
Yeah.
But Doomsday hasn't come into the storyline yet, Master Wayne. Fucking where's fucking Superman? That's all I want. Listen,
Exactly.
I know I'm just your butler and medical doctor and your cook
Surgeon.
and surgeon,
Therapist.
and sometimes I run your electronics and sometimes I organize things. But apart from that,
Right.
if I may, Master Wayne, what the fuck is going on with this?
I've earned the
fucking cunt?
right.
This
That's
cunt's
right.
Superman, Master Wayne. May
We
I
should
call
be
him a
sitting on
cunt?
an island
Yeah,
somewhere,
yeah,
for fuck's
yeah,
sake.
yeah. He could solve
I'm so mad
all of
right
the
now.
problems of Gotham, Master Wayne. Like, what the fuck is going on? Seriously. He
Yeah.
goes to
Why
other
is he
fucking planets and solves things
half-assing
there.
it?
Why can't he
Yeah.
fix Gotham for
Yeah.
you? That's all I'm
How
saying.
about he should
I
change
didn't
his
sign
name
up for
to
this. I'm an old
right?
cunt. I just
That's
want to
right.
be a butler. I don't want to
Yeah.
have to stitch you up
I
every
want to
night.
dress
Master
in
Wayne.
the fancy outfit and say dinner's served, sir.
I
He
would
should
like
be
to
called
fuck. I would like to fuck Wonder Woman just one time,
just
if
one
that's all
time.
right with you. Just
And
one
it won't
time.
even take very long. In fact,
No,
I just finished thinking about
I'm
it. But the point
I'm
is,
very old.
she
I'm
won't
very
feel a
old.
thing. And could we call him almost Superman or not quite Superman? Something. Let the cunt know we are most displeased.
Hey,
Anyway, yeah.
holy fuck. What was the show? So we did a show. Was it last week or the week before?
Uh-huh.
I know we did a whole Yoda thing on one of our episodes.
Right.
We did. What was the other show that we did? What was the gag that we were cracking ourselves up about? We were doing something about somebody a week or two ago. Or I sent you a WhatsApp about it.
Oh,
I just remember I was
Carl.
driving a Kung Fu the elevator
Right.
that day, and I was just laughing to myself. And Chrissy goes, "What's funny?" And I was like, "Oh, Ray and I did this thing." Oh, Carl.
Carl the fire starter.
Carl.
Carl the fire starter.
Carl.
I laughed my ass.
Oh.
I was sweating under my shirt. I was laughing so goddamn. Yeah. I was taking off the sweater. I was getting
Oh.
hot. I'm looking at you, Carl. I mean, and that's what and you just ran with it from there. Fuck's sake.
And
Anyway,
we went
everybody
on
go
for
check
10
out
minutes about Carl.
Renaissance.
Oh.
No. Renaissance? No, not Renaissance.
Yeah.
Caesar.
No, it was Renaissance.
No, because it was Caesar because they burned the window to get into the inner temple of Jerusalem.
Right. And it wasn't that also we did Yoda?
We did Yoda, but I can't remember which show. You said some very disparaging. Yes.
No, it was just the fact that
Yoda
was 900 years old, but he was fucking bitches the whole time.
Right.
I don't know how we got up to that, but it was Yoda's sex life was something we got to. I don't know how we ended up on that.
Everybody needs to subscribe to every show because you're missing. It was gold. It was gold. If you don't listen to the Carl,
I laughed for days.
Yeah,
and so we went camping. And Chrissy's lighting a campfire, and I'm like, I started calling her Carl for the whole thing, and then Fox started playing with the fire, so he was Carl's Jr.
You sent me a picture of him.
I did, yeah.
Gold, Jerry.
Carl.
Gold, better than Ovaltine. Anyway, where were we? I apologize.
You don't know this, but when Tony and I are doing QAV, whenever there's some sort of particular spin that a CEO is trying to put on something, Tony's always referring to Barry and Stan. Did Barry and Stan come up with that? Like, Barry and Stan. And I don't like the QAV audience don't know who Barry and Stan is, right? So it's
right.
It's like an
we still got to write a book. Barry and Stan's take on history.
Yeah, shit,
influence
we should totally
history.
do that. Yeah,
we'll workshop it.
So back to Castro. So sometimes people could find him sort of impatient and offhand. Just go deal with it.
Yeah,
I don't have time for this.
Go
deal with it.
Fucking do it.
I told you last week what to do. Just do it. Other times he would be warm and interested and spend an hour listening to you and really. So he's very
come sit down. Let's talk.
Very moody.
Yeah.
The new US ambassador was trying to get a meeting with him. He put him off for weeks, just ignored him.
For fuck's sake. Yeah, I can't be bothered. I
think
weeks.
Partly I'm too busy. B, fuck you. C, just letting them know that they're not that important anymore.
Yeah.
The US is not that important. Yeah.
Yes.
To his picture.
Exactly. He's sending a message.
But he did eventually meet with him, listened politely and responsibly to the ambassador's lengthy explanations of America's policy.
Right.
But didn't give a fuck. Yeah. Don't care.
Yeah.
Don't care what you want.
I heard you.
Don't care what you think. Yeah.
Fuck all the way off. Yeah. Where were we?
He also apparently, surprisingly to me, showed very little interest in day-to-day economic affairs of Cuba.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we were mentioning this at the top of the show, but it's not like he's an expert in economics. It's not like he's an expert in constitutional law, even though he's a lawyer, as far as, actually running the government versus taking someone to court. And again, it's not in his wheelhouse. He's passionate about fucking everything, but I don't know. There's just some things that just kind of, go over his head, and he just can't. I don't know. I always get the sense that if he's into it, he's going to give it his all. If he's not into it, pass it to somebody else. But that's just my take on what I've read.
Yeah, I kind of feel like he must have felt like I feel when my accountant tries to explain bookkeeping to me.
Look, this is why you're barely not going to jail. Let me explain it to you. Yeah.
Mm. Well, I hear
Charlie Brown's teacher.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I'm out of here. Just tell me where to sign.
Yeah. But Castro quite famously had an attraction to gigantic schemes.
Big, beautiful.
He's a big picture guy.
Right.
Don't get me
Like
bogged
us.
down in the details. I just want to do big things. The sort of projects that appeal to guys like Stalin and Mussolini and Mao.
Yeah. I want to cut a ribbon. I just want to cut a fucking ribbon.
We're gonna divert a giant river and build a dam and build a city and build a mountain and all these sorts of things.
It's gonna be awesome.
But Cuba didn't have any great rivers to dam or divert. So he looks for projects that only he can do. And one of those is draining the swamp.
Literally.
Donald Trump said he was going to drain the swamp. Fidel Castro invented that. He's going to drain an actual literal swamp, the Cienega de Zapata.
Right. He's got plans. And it's going to benefit the people. Again, this is Castro we're talking about. It's going to benefit the people.
This swamp stretched for many miles inland from the Bay of Pigs, and it was virtually unpopulated because swamp, mosquitoes and crocodiles, and he thinks they can drain it and turn it into an area where they can grow rice and maybe tourism, maybe some hotels, maybe bring some money in.
Yeah,
so he starts visiting there a lot, and he's got these grand architectural schemes and gets himself into trouble. He on more than one occasion. On one occasion, his motorboat got snagged and sank beneath him while he's specking it out.
Get a speech.
He leapt. He was by himself, apparently, leapt out of the boat onto some land while the boat sank, and just sat there and read his book while he waited for people to come and rescue him.
I'm Castro. They'll come and look for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think there were other people on other boats, but they had to go and organize some sort of a rescue for him because they couldn't get to him. On another occasion, a helicopter pilot, Air Force Commander Diaz Lanz, set off to fetch more petrol, leaving Castro on a beach. But then the helicopter crashed in the swamp. So Castro and the guys that he was with had to walk more than 10 miles to find a telephone to summon help. But by the time they did that, there was already a huge search in progress for them.
Sure.
Led by Raul Castro in a light aircraft, which also crashed.
Okay, no more flying. No more of you fuckers flying, because clearly you can't do it.
It was found half buried in a swamp.
Right.
With Raul nowhere to be seen. So then they have to do a search for a Raul Castro.
I got a headache.
Who was found several hours later, alive and well. Despite all of this, Castro did manage to build floating houses on a lagoon in the middle of the swamp and used it as a retreat and a place to entertain special guests.
No, so something did come from that. Can I ask you real quick, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but when you and I were growing up, roughly the same age, a lot of cartoons, a lot of shows, quicksand was a really big problem in a lot of those shows. Have you encountered, I mean, you're in Australia, I don't know what the fuck they got, but I've never run into quicksand. I've never seen it. I wouldn't recognize it. Has that been an issue for you? I thought it was going to be a bigger issue in my life.
Yeah, I really thought I was going to have survival techniques to how to breathe
Yeah.
under the quicksand. Actually, when last time I watched Princess Bride, R.I.P. Rob
Right?
Reiner,
Oh, love that
I
show.
did uh, do a bit of a deep dive into quicksand because
Right.
when they go to the
Oh, yeah, the swamp.
swamp
Yeah. Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
no return or something, whatever it is,
Something like that. Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
fire swamp.
There we
Um,
go.
they it's a big deal, and turns out quicksand isn't quicksand like you see it in the movies. Like
Right.
there is forms of sand that if you stand in it long enough, it will
So,
gradually pull you down, but not
so,
like you step in it and you go through the bottom. That
so
that
I would
that
have to hold
doesn't
still.
exist.
I
Yes,
would have to help the quicksand. See,
for
I ain't got
about
time for that.
3 or 4 weeks, you
Right.
would have to be standing in it before
I
you would
yeah,
disappear.
I ain't got time for that. Anyway, so but floating houses again, clever, very. I don't know if they got rid of the mosquitoes, but clever.
Yeah. So at this time, Castro decides he has another heroic project that he wants to pursue,
Yes.
how to win over the North American public. Like,
Ooh.
they're just
Yeah.
complaining, they're saying mean things.
Right.
I'm gonna
They're
go and win
bad
them
for
over
business.
whilst
Yeah.
at the same time
Right.
telling America to go fuck themselves. Gonna win over the people whilst telling the government and the corporations
Right.
that they can suck my dick. So
Wow. Yeah.
he visits America, April 1959.
Mm-hmm. Invited by the Society of Newspaper Editors. Like, yeah, I'll take up you up on your offer. And again, this is a brilliant chance to try to charm, try to schmooze the American people while staying slightly antagonistic to Washington and its policies.
But before he goes, he
Right.
softens the government's stance on executions for war crimes.
Good
They have a
move.
special 26/7 meeting, Congress of the
Right.
Revolutionary Movement, where delegates argue for ending executions. Raoul, ever the
That
hardliner,
fuck. Right.
says that
Fuck 'em.
that is a shit idea. Merde. Fidel calls
Right.
Raoul to order and tells him to apologize,
Oh, yeah.
which he
Yeah, because you can
does.
go too far. Yeah, you can go too far. Yeah.
And they end up sending a telegram to all of the military commanders ordering an end to executions.
Right. No more bang bang.
Sadly,
Gotcha.
some of those telegrams got lost in the mail and they sentenced a few people to death and had them executed before it arrived.
Right.
According to Raoul, the telegram
Yeah.
arrived too late.
Yeah. It was garbled. It was a garbled communication.
And
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to know if this thing between Fidel and Raoul was real or political theater. I tend to think it's political theater,
Ah,
determined to demonstrate that Raoul is really hardline and Fidel is the moderate guy.
yeah.
Whoa,
The
whoa,
good
whoa,
bad
whoa,
cop.
whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They're playing good cop, bad cop for international
Right.
audiences, right?
Right. Look, it can always get worse. So
Yeah.
don't shoot me because if you shoot me, there'll be a lot more shooting, but not the kind you think. Yeah.
Or if he goes to the United States and gets arrested, held, etc., the
Yeah.
guy that replaces me is going to be even more hardline than I am.
That's a good point. Washington may not like me, but you damn sure won't like my brother. So let me come and go as I please, please. And but it's a good tone to set. Hey, we're going to quit killing. So now you're probably going to write about how more moderate I am, or I'm mellowing, or whatever. But that's a good move before going to America. Again, this guy is a shrewd political animal.
But one of the challenges with him going to America at this juncture is the optics of it. So Cuba has
Yeah,
been full of dictators that have gone over and sucked up to the US and said,
sucked hard.
what are my instructions?"
Right,
Um,
right.
and he's worried about that perception that he'll look like just another stooge that's fawning on the United States after all of his rhetoric and hyperbole about the enemy that the United States was to Cuban interests. He
Yeah,
doesn't want to look like he's going there to suck up to Eisenhower.
A
On the flip
Pusey.
side,
Right.
Eisenhower doesn't want to have a meeting with him either
Yes.
because we're still not sure where this guy fits into the whole picture. And Eisenhower doesn't want to be seen to be meeting with him, even though the United States has already accepted the government as being the legitimate government of Cuba. They've sent an
Right.
ambassador, they have formal diplomatic relations. Eisenhower is a little bit worried about the optics of it as well. So
Well,
it's
the reason
tricky
is
balance.
absolutely, absolutely. See, because when you take a picture, that's forever. Think about all the people in the past who have taken a picture with Epstein. I mean, that's out there. It's not, you never know what the future holds, right? So you don't need Eisenhower smiling and shaking this guy's hand. He might turn out to be this massive
That's why
communist
no
who,
photos of you and I together exist, because
no,
I
no,
know that
exactly.
eventually
It's going to
something's
come
going to
out.
come out.
It's going to,
Yeah. Covering my
no.
bets here.
And that's why I'm not mad at you. That was good. That was a shrewd move on your
And
part.
any
And I
photos of you and I
appreciate
together that do exist,
doctored. The
AI generated.
AI,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
especially the sex ones. I cannot stress that enough. AI generated. And I'm done now.
There's no way my penis is that small. That must be AI.
Damn it, AI. Anyway, we should probably move
But
on.
Castro has decided he's sufficiently demonstrated his anti-imperialist credentials. His
Yes.
first overseas visit was to
Oh, that's
Venezuela,
right.
as we said in the last episode, where he criticized the United States and tried to organize, a relationship between Cuba and Venezuela.
Yeah.
And as you said, this is kind of an unofficial visit anyway. He hasn't been invited by the US administration. He's being
Good
invited
point.
by the newspaper guys.
It's
And he's
cash.
really going to meet with the people rather than
Yes,
with the government.
exactly. And he just wants to get to, he likes to talk to the Cuban people. He's going to go talk to some American people now. That's Castro.
And the delegation of Cubans that he takes with him are all businessmen,
Yes.
not communists,
For
not
fuck's sake, no. Yeah.
left wingers, not
Right.
Shea, not Raul,
Who couldn't keep their
businessmen.
mouth shut.
Hey,
Right.
Cuba's
Right.
open for business as part of his message. We want to
Exactly.
do business.
Yes.
But
The right kind of business.
yes, under our terms. We want to do
Yes.
business, but it has to work for us.
Yeah. And did we talk? I can't remember. I don't know if you know the name of the company, but he hires, or does he hire an American public relations company to help how he's going to present himself, or did someone offer it? I don't know the details.
I'm not sure if he hires them or they volunteer themselves, but he does
I can
have
see
some
that.
assistance from I don't think Castro is a guy that listens to PR people very much, but
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
so he makes a big impact. There are huge crowds everywhere. He engages in debate and repartee with everyone he meets. He's an open book. He will talk with anyone, explain what's going on,
Yeah.
and he remains polite and good-humored even during hostile questioning. He's presenting himself as calm, reasonable, rational, sense of
Yes.
humor.
Yeah.
He's okay. Students and other progressive groups who come to see him give him a warm reception, but some people don't. Like, he gets aggressively questioned by some interviewers about whether or not he has any communist links. A lot of
Yeah.
Americans have deep misgivings about Castro and what his agenda is going to be in the country. Obviously, they've heard a lot about executions of war criminals, etc., etc. Obviously, there were a lot of Americans that had business relationships with the Batista government and had business
Yeah.
interests in Cuba. They're a little bit unsure about what's going to happen with that.
Yeah.
So while all of this is going on,
Right.
unbeknownst to Castro or the American public, the National Security Council of the United States and the CIA
Mm-hmm.
had already authorized plans to remove Castro as the head of the government in Cuba.
Well, like you said, between the executions and probably the disrupted business dealings, and again, if this guy would come out and just say, the last thing I would ever be is a communist, better dead than red. He's not making statements like that. He's kind of being, whatever. And so they don't know. And because this is the height in some ways of the Cold War, or the early years of the Cold War, the fact that you don't come out and say you're not a communist, I think the Americans are projecting their fears onto them. So, it would be best for us if he was gone. So they make plans.
Well, whether or not he's a communist, he's not our guy.
He's
He
exactly. He's not
removed our guy, and he's not
right.
our guy.
Right.
And Monroe Doctrine says he needs to be our guy.
Either our guy or out.
So Eisenhower arranges to be out of Washington during the 5 days that Castro's going to be there. Secretary of State Dulles had just resigned on health grounds.
Right.
The government doesn't want to openly snub Castro, just gives him a pretext for more anti-American rhetoric, but also don't want to give the seal of approval to him.
Yeah.
So they try and
line.
figure out, what a middle ground is.
Yeah. Well, like you said, he does visit a lot of people and he does talk to a lot of people. I do know that he spoke to the acting Secretary of State, Christian Herter, but I think that was a pretty low-key, casual conversation. Again, he's the acting Secretary of State, so it's okay. It's not enough, but it's certainly not a declaration of Washington going, this is our guy.
Yeah, there is a delegation from the State Department that meets with him, economic experts, etc.
Right.
But Castro doesn't want anything from them. They're they go into the meeting willing to talk about providing some sort of aid to Cuba. Right. He doesn't want any aid. He doesn't want to go there with a begging bowl, as he says.
We're good. We're good. Yeah. Yeah.
So they start to wonder why they were even asked to be in the meeting when Castro doesn't want to listen to anything they have to say. Right. He says he partly just wants to take the meeting because you have to know your enemy. It's Sun Tzu. No, you understand your enemy.
Right. Yeah. I just thought I'd come here and check you out, let you check me out.
He also wants to make a splash on the world stage. And
who doesn't?
Challenge the American assumption that the Caribbean is part of their sphere of influence. He makes a few barb jokes. When he's introduced to the guy in the State Department who's in charge of Cuban affairs, he says, "That's funny. I thought I was in charge of Cuban affairs."
To me, that is hands down the funniest thing a politician has ever said. Besides, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. I mean, that's Castro being witty as fuck.
And he is a good performer. He is very charming when he wants to be. Yeah. He's very articulate. He's got a twinkle in his eye. Nobody can dispute the fact that when he turns it on, he can really turn it on.
Right.
And he's trying to impress the American people. Here's a guy they've read about, they've heard about, the bearded revolutionary. He turns up, he's charming, he's funny, he's erudite. He's
not
putting
drooling
on a
from
show.
The mouth. Exactly. Yeah. He knows the game. He knows the game. He goes to George. He lays a wreath at George Washington's grave. He goes to Yankee Stadium. So they're seeing what some people might have perceived as a monster as just a guy. Yes, he's wearing green fatigues. He's got the beard. He's got the boots. He's got the hat. But lo and behold, this guy is just another human being. Maybe we shouldn't be so afraid after all.
After Washington, he goes to New York. He goes to the zoo and performs some tricks with zoo animals.
Right. Like with the doves?
Crazy animal tricks. Yeah.
Right.
He goes to a cheap Chinese restaurant and has a meal with a group of people. He's showing that he's a man of the people.
Yeah. I eat. Yeah. I'm just like everybody else.
Some people want him to go and see Picasso at the Museum of Modern Art and do these highbrow intellectual things. He doesn't want to do that.
Right.
He's a man of the common man.
Exactly, like us. Now, I did read that Eisenhower was playing golf for 5 days. It was like, oh, you're coming out? It's too bad. I don't see if you look here. I've already scheduled in my vacation. I'm going to be playing golf out of state for 5 days. He was probably doing something else as well, but he was conveniently not around when Castro came to town.
And I don't think Castro was insulted by that rebuff. I think Castro got it. He understood the game.
Yeah.
Raul calls him at one point and says he's worried that the media coverage is giving the impression that he's a sellout to the imperialists. He's having too much fun. He should be there
Right.
ranting and raving and shaking his fist, but he's partying, not partying, but he's going out. It's all positive. He's getting all this
Yeah,
positive
yeah,
media coverage. It's not looking good. Castro's like, I know what I'm doing. Don't you worry
yeah.
about it.
I got this.
He has a long session with a guy from the CIA who's an expert on Latin America, a guy called Dr. Bender.
Right.
And this guy tries to figure out what Castro's relationship with the communists is. Castro says he's allowing the communists to show their heads so he can deal with them more effectively later on.
Ooh, he's playing the deep game. No, I'm only pretending to be their friend so then I can get them. Trust me, buddy. This is a 3-step process. I know you're not used to that. I know exactly what I'm doing. I've got them right where I want them. Or
Yeah,
something.
this guy was so convinced
Right?
by Castro that he concluded that Castro is not only not a communist, but he's
Yeah.
actually anti-communist.
And the award goes to
Yeah.
Castro for selling himself to this dumbass American.
Well, no, look, I think Castro wasn't a communist at this stage.
Right.
I
He just
don't
want what
think.
works. Yeah. Yeah. I
Yes,
totally agree. Yeah.
it's a bit like
Pragmatic.
when we did Ho Chi Minh, the early years of Ho
Right.
Chi Minh's revolution.
Yeah.
He was a nationalist.
Yep.
He wanted for his country to be independent. He
I'll work
wanted
with
more
anybody.
social justice, but not necessarily signed on board to being a card carrying communist.
He had to work his way there, or they were the only ones who were taking his calls. And it's, you know, it's going to kind of be the same for Castro. But yeah, so I'm not that, but I may become that if everybody else treats me like shit.
hmm. Coincidentally, when the CIA later developed a series of attempts to assassinate Castro,
Yeah. Right.
uh, they develop an organization that can provide the secret financial backing for these attempts, and it's called the Bender Group.
Ooh,
So, uh, American
interesting.
businesses could fund dissident Cubans to try and assassinate Castro.
Interesting.
Um, this guy Bender, though, was so convinced about Castro that he and Castro agreed to exchange secret intelligence on communist infiltration in Cuba so he could keep an eye on it.
Right. Let's work together, buddy. Yeah. Look him in the eye, shake his hand. Good stuff.
But then Castro meets with the vice president, guy by the name of, I think this is pronounced Richard Nixon. Don't know if you've
Mil-
ever come across
Milhouse.
this guy before.
Milhouse Nixon. Yeah. He's known as he's pretty laid back. Pretty laid back. Yeah, I'm sure everything's going to go fine.
Nixon confronts him with evidence of growing communist influence in Cuba, which Castro brushes aside.
Right.
He wants
Right.
to talk about his plans for health, for education, for agrarian reform. Nixon wants to talk about executions
Yeah.
and the failure to set an election date. When Castro says people support revolutionary trials and they have no interest in early elections, Nixon replies that a leader should do what's right, not what the people want.
Oh, that's rich. Sorry, I wasn't supposed to say that out loud. Yeah.
Which
No,
is
but
interesting.
he's right. But he's right. Sorry, go ahead.
Is he? What's the job of a leader? Is it to do what the people want or to do what you want and then you convince the people to want what you want?
I imagine it's a balance of both, but I mean, say like, and I'm just going to pick something randomly. I'm going to make something up. If a leader starts a war and doesn't get the people ready for the war and there's no end goal, people may not like that. So, but again, if you go against the people completely, that's not going to work. So I think it's a blend of both. I think you take them where they need to go. You probably push them harder than they think they can do, but at the same time, you are there to represent them. He's not Augustus. He is there to represent the will of the people. But Nixon is like, what are you going to do about the communists? I just want to hear, whatever. So,
Very
yeah,
good.
well, that was my Nixon. That's the best I could do.
Yeah, that
But
was good.
I'm sure it was a very tense meeting between the two.
Yeah. I don't think they got along very well. Nixon advises Castro to send a representative to Puerto Rico to
Mm-hmm.
study what they're doing. Castro
Right.
says, "Yeah, we don't need to know that. We're doing what we're doing." He feels like he's being patronized by
Yes.
Nixon.
Yeah. You
When
can
they
learn
give
from
a
them.
press conference and Nixon is speaking, giving his version of the meeting to the press, Castro's body language gives him away. He looks like
Yeah.
he's angry and
Yeah.
wants to punch the motherfucker, but doesn't do it.
It's a tell.
Nixon is
Yeah.
hugely condescending, and it's interesting how he spins this later on.
Mm.
In a confidential note he sends to Eisenhower, he says about Castro that he is either incredibly naive about communism or under communist discipline. My guess is the former.
Right. No, he knows. He's worked with communists. He knows that Castro knows communism. I feel.
Well, his brother is a communist. Che Guevara is a communist. His closest working
Right.
colleagues are devout
So
Marxists at this stage.
so he's rubbed elbows with communists. Maybe he knows a thing or two about them.
And he's had to do a lot with the actual Communist Party in Cuba. He's had to
Right. Like we
fight
talked about.
against them and,
Yeah.
try and bring them into line.
Right.
Nixon also says in his note to Eisenhower that Castro is more ignorant about economics than any leader he had ever met, and that Castro's anti-Americanism is virtually incurable.
He might be a little closer to the mark there, but why is his anti-Americanism virtually incurable? You bunch of cunts. So again, you can't really blame him for that.
Nixon's only concern about his meeting with Castro is that he might have spent too much time with Castro and will get criticized by the media for giving him too much attention.
What a
Later on
dick.
in the first memoirs he puts out in 1978, he basically presents himself as having this prescient, hard-nosed view of Castro and that he got him right. He could tell from the get-go that this guy was going to be a problem. He spent
Right.
3 hours with Castro, I should point out.
Okay.
But later on in his memoirs, he gives this perspective that he always knew Castro was going to be a problem. He said that he wrote a memo where he said Castro was a new type of dictator that we have no choice but at least to try and orient him in the right direction, but had concluded that he was probably a lost cause.
Yeah.
In his memoirs, he tries to position himself as being tough with Castro, as being skeptical of Castro, claims that he was the first high-ranking official to advocate for the training of a Cuban exile force, made him the true architect of the Bay of Pigs invasion.
Mm.
But there's another document that I came across,
Right.
a memorandum of conversation, or a memcon, that has been declassified, that he wrote on April 25th, 1959. It's in the State Department's records,
Right.
where he gives a different perspective on
Oh,
the
do
meeting
tell.
with Castro.
Right.
It's in the National Security Archive, and he actually speaks quite highly of Castro's charisma and leadership qualities. He actually says that he spent much of the meeting trying to act as a mentor, advising Castro on how to handle the press and the economy. Didn't really cross-examine him much on whether or not he had Marxist leanings. He
Right.
did ask him about holding elections, but Castro said that the people didn't want them. And Nixon wrote that Castro had the gift of leadership. I'm going to finish
Wow.
with this. I've going to quote from some sections of this because I found it fascinating to see how Nixon portrayed the meeting at the time
Exactly.
in a
Versus
confidential memo versus how he tried to position it decades later.
right.
He wrote, um, it was this almost slavish subservience to prevailing majority opinion, the voice of the mob, rather than his naive attitude toward communism and his obvious lack of understanding of even the most elementary economic principles, which concern me most in evaluating what kind of a leader he might eventually turn out to be. That is the reason why I spent as much time as I could trying to emphasize that he had the great gift of leadership, but that it was the responsibility of a leader not always to follow public opinion, but to help to direct it into proper channels, not to give the people what they think they want at a time of emotional stress, but to make them want what they ought to have.
Mm. Sell it to them.
Reminds
Okay.
me of something that Noam Chomsky wrote about a lot over the years, which was that the official view of the elite in the United States, when you read their memos and what they write to each other, is always that democracy is about telling people what they want and giving them
Right.
what they need, not about listening to what they want and giving them what they want. It's about,
Wow.
no, no, you don't know
Yeah.
what you want.
I know best.
I know better than you. Yeah. So you
Yeah.
have the
Yeah.
elite that are trying to just keep people at bay, give them enough
Mhm.
that they'll shut the fuck up, but
Right.
do what the elite thinks is the right thing, not what the
Right.
people want.
Sounds right. Sounds right. Yeah.
He goes on, Nixon, I frankly doubt that I made too much impression upon him, but he did listen and appeared to be somewhat receptive. I tried to cast my appeal to him primarily in terms of how his place in history would be affected by the courage and statesmanship he displayed at this time. Well, he was right about that. I
Mhm.
emphasized that the easy thing to do was to follow the mob, but that the right thing in the long run would be better for the people and, of course, better for him as well. As I've already indicated, he was incredibly naive with regard to the communist threat and appeared to have no fear whatever that the communists might eventually come to power in Cuba. He said that during the course of the revolution, there had been occasions when the communists overplayed their hand and, quote, my people put them in their place. He
Mm.
implied that this would be the situation in the future in the event that the communists tried to come to power. As a matter of fact, in his attitude toward communism, both internally and from an international standpoint, he sounded almost exactly like Sukarno had sounded to me when I visited Indonesia in 1953. In our discussions of communism, I again tried to cast the arguments in terms of his own self interest and to point out that the revolution which he had led might be turned against him and the Cuban people unless he kept control of the situation and made sure that the communists did not get into the positions of power and influence. On this score, I felt I made very little impression, if any.
Right. Yeah, because he probably wants a full-throated, yes, fuck those communists, and he didn't get it.
He also spoke rather frankly about what he felt was a very disturbing attitude on the part of the American press and the American people generally. His argument went along this line: yours is a great country, the richest, the greatest, the most powerful in the world. Sounds like Donald Trump. Your people, therefore, should be proud and confident and happy. But every place I go, you seem to be afraid. Afraid of communism, afraid that if Cuba has land reform, it will grow a little rice and the market for your rice will be reduced. Afraid that if Latin America becomes more industrialized, American factories will not be able to sell as much abroad as they have previously. You in America should not be talking so much about your fear of what the communists may do in Cuba or in some other country in Latin America, Asia, or Africa. You should be talking more about your own strength and the reasons why your system is superior to communism or any other kind of dictatorship.
Damn, he nailed it and won. Nailed it perfectly. That should have been the line America had the entire time, but we were as you well know, we've been fear driven since the beginning of the Cold War.
probably because you don't have a good counter argument for people should have more money and more social justice.
Right. Fuck that. We're
And
Americans.
less religion.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to counter that argument with no, they
missiles.
shouldn't have more money and more freedom
Right.
and more
Yeah.
social justice. Thank you.
Yeah.
We would like to end our case here.
Time's up.
Because, well, listen, my counter argument is what are the fucking rich people going to do?
Yeah.
And the church.
They got to manipulate somebody. But yeah. Again, we've said this on other shows. If America had focused on fuck communism, we're better than they are, and really made policies to make their people happy, they wouldn't be tempted by someone coming up to them. Hey, here's a pamphlet. Here's a brochure about the benefits of communism. Fuck you. My life is great. That's not how we fought the Cold War. We scared the shit out of our people, generation after generation after generation.
Back to Nixon. My own
Yep.
appraisal of him as a man is somewhat mixed. The one fact we can be sure of is that he has those indefinable qualities which make him a leader of men.
Mhm.
Whatever we may think of him, he is going to be a great factor in the development of Cuba and very possibly in Latin American affairs generally.
Wow.
He seems to be sincere. He is either incredibly naive about communism or under communist discipline. My guess is the former. And as I have already implied, his ideas as how to run a government or an economy are less developed than those of almost any world figure I have met in 50 countries. But because he has the power to lead, to which I have referred, we have no choice but at least to try and orient him in the right direction. So,
Wow.
Nixon thought Castro was sincere,
Mhm.
but his economic ideas were undeveloped and he was naive about the communist threat.
Well, Cuba and America, that's apples and oranges. So yeah, I don't know what the heck he's expecting, but he's viewing it as an American.
And as we'll see, he might have been right about Castro's naivety about how to run a government or an economy.
Right.
Things did not go well for Cuba, largely because they were
Right.
under economic sanctions day one from the United States and
Look,
under a huge military threat and constant attempts of invasion and assassination. But also, they fuck shit up. To be quite
Right.
blunt and frank,
Yeah.
these guys did not know what they were doing. And as I said in this or the last episode, the first person to acknowledge that has always been Fidel Castro.
Yeah. I didn't know how to storm a barracks. If I had to do it now, I would do it much better. I didn't know how to run an economy or country. If I did it now, it would be a lot better. The man was sincere and he was honest about his failures once he recognized them as such.
There's a great line in Citizen Kane that this reminds me of that I wish I had a clip of. I probably do somewhere, but I don't have my audio thing set up. But early on in the film, have you seen Citizen Kane?
Absolutely. Yeah.
When the young Kane, Orson Welles, is running his newspaper and his financial, what's his like
accountant or advisor or
he's not his accountant. He's the guy that runs the bequeathment. So, Kane's mother ran a boarding house and she was poor and she gave a guy free accommodation. And then that guy died many years later, but he had built a massive empire and he bequeathed a certain amount of money to her son as a thank you for taking care of him when he didn't have a pot to piss in and during the Depression.
Yeah.
And so Kane gets raised by his benefactor. He gets raised by it. And that guy later on is saying he's losing $1 million a year running this newspaper. And Kane says, "You're right. I did lose $1 million last year, and I'm probably going to lose $1 million this year, and I'll lose $1 million next year. I don't know how to run a newspaper. I'm just doing everything I can think of. And at this rate, I'll probably run out of money in 50 years."
I love that scene.
But
Yeah.
that idea of
Yeah.
I don't know how to run a newspaper, I'm just doing everything I can think of. I think that
Yeah.
was Castro's approach to running Cuba. I don't know how to run a country.
I'm
I'm
going to
just
throw
doing
everything.
everything I can think of. Right?
Yeah. Whatever sticks, sticks. Whatever works, works. And we'll try something else. But yeah, again, because he is starting from scratch. I mean, he is literally starting from scratch, trying to get rid of the corruption. So, again,
And that's the
honest.
other point. Like there's like when we talk about the emperors back in Rome, Augustus, not really an emperor as we know, but Augustus through to right up to Nero and Vespasian and all these guys.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a rule book for how you did this in
Oh, it
Rome.
was all exactly. Exactly. This is
They
the
had a
first.
republic. The republic
Yeah.
failed. It collapsed. Too many rich guys doing whatever the fuck they wanted. Too corrupt.
Yeah.
It collapsed on itself. Caesar got rid of it. Augustus got rid of it. Then they had to figure out, well, how do we do this thing? How do we run this empire?
Yeah.
We need to completely reinvent. Oh, they still had a Senate, but it was a rubber stamp authority.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
all basically down to Augustus initially. And then Tiberius was like, I don't even fucking want to do this. I just want to go
I
to my
just
sex
coast.
palace in
I'm
Capri. I didn't want
coasting,
this job.
baby.
I didn't ask for this job. I was
Right?
given this job. I didn't
They
want it.
made me. They
Yeah.
made me.
I just wanted to do kinky shit in my sex island. And
Like
then,
every other. Right? Right.
you have Caligula and
Claudius.
Claudius.
Caligula.
Claudius, at least he was an historian. He had some sort of
Right.
clue, but how good
Yeah.
things, But the young guys, I feel
Yeah.
worse for. Caligula, Nero, they're like 16, 20.
Yeah.
They get this
I have
gig
no
and they're
idea.
like, yeah, they got
Yeah.
no idea. They
Yeah.
just want to
Yeah.
party, get laid, have a good time, and they have to run this thing. They're like, I don't fucking know. There was no rule
Ceremony?
book for how to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Show me where it's in the rule book where I'm the fourth emperor in 1 year. Turn to that
Yeah.
page. Oh, there isn't a
Like
fucking book? Oh, okay.
Alexander's dad was a king,
Yeah.
and his dad's dad was a king, and his dad's
Yeah.
dad's dad was a king. Like they had come from
Right.
generations of monarchies. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, the kingdoms that his dad and predecessors ran was nothing like the empire that Alexander built, but he
Right.
kind of had been raised as a king's son.
Precedents.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he knew how to run a kingdom to some extent. These guys had no idea, and Castro has no idea. And also, no one has run a country like this before. Okay, you've got an island off the coast of the most powerful superpower in the world, probably in history, that
Mhm.
has been used as a plaything by that country and by the mafia forever. Before that, it was occupied by Spain. You've got the Russia, the Soviet Union, as an example of somebody that threw out feudalism and is trying to figure it out. You've got China, but it's barely
Yeah.
out of their civil war. It's and those are different situations. Massive countries with massive populations and a long
And
way away
resources.
from the United States. We're a small
Yes.
island country, few million people, basically off the coast, trying to figure out, well, how do we run a country without elections, without political, economic, military influence from our superpower neighbor 70 miles away? How do
Right.
we do this? There's no textbook. You can't go and read up
Yeah.
on you can go and read Plato and Aristotle and Socrates, and you can read some Cicero, and you can try and go back to the classics. You can read Marcus Aurelius. You can try and read some of the classics to get a hint of how to do things, but really
Yeah. We're making this up. Yeah.
where you're going to find the books is Marx, Lenin, Stalin. These are the people that have Trotsky. These are the guys that have been writing things
And thinking
in
about
the
it.
last
Yeah.
century, thinking about how do you run a country that's not based on feudalism and capitalism. At the end of the day, that's all you have available to you is political philosophy that runs counter to feudalism and capitalism. So
Yeah.
it's kind of inevitable that you're going to have to, if you're trying to figure out a rule book for how to do this,
Yeah.
the literature that you have available to you, you have Adam fucking what's his face? The
Oh,
free hand of capitalism.
yeah.
Kind of
God, I'm looking
mental
right
block.
at him.
Yeah,
Shit.
Scottish political philosopher.
Yeah.
But you don't have a lot. There's not a lot. That's the interesting thing. When we did our episodes at the beginning of the Cold War series on different forms of economic interaction, you talked about the fact that there's really no guidebooks for good capitalism. They haven't really been written. You've got a little bit from Keynes, and Milton Friedman would have come after this. He didn't start writing to the 70s, but they're shit anyway. And you've got, Adam, whatever his fucking name is. Can't believe I can't pull his name out.
The pup.
That's what I
I'm
need.
completely blank. Cheryl? No, she's coked up. That's not doing me any good.
Adam Smith. God, that's how could I not remember Smith.
Damn.
Yeah.
Right.
The Invisible Hand, Adam Smith. Fake name, if ever I heard one. Come on, his real name. Yeah.
Pseudium. Yeah. It was Wolowitz.
Yeah, he's a Jew. He was a Jew, and he was like, "Oh fuck! If I'm a Jew, I can't write this as a Jew. I gotta."
I can't believe I said that.
Oh, we were talking off air. I just watched the Mel Brooks documentary that's on HBO Max recently, The 99-Year-Old Man, and it's hilarious. It's a really, really good watch. And if you're a fan, I know you're a fan of Mel Brooks. I'm a huge fan of Mel Brooks. I said to Hunter, what he said, what do you watch? I said, I watched this Mel Brooks. He goes, who? He goes, Mel Brooks. He goes,
God.
Never heard of it. Like, fuck me, really?
Go watch Young Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Is it Young Frankenstein or Frank? I can't remember. Yeah.
Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Frankenstein.
That's right.
Or Blazing Saddles.
Blazing. I thought your hump was over there. What hump?
Yeah.
What
hump? I'm a talented surgeon. I can fix that hump. What hump?
Of course, then you go, putting on the rings.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
There's a part of the documentary where there's an interview with Gene Wilder talking about that, because he and Mel wrote the script for Young Frankenstein together.
Oh, wow.
It was Gene Wilder's idea, and they wrote it together, and it was Gene Wilder's idea to putting on the Ritz in it. And Mel didn't want it. He thought it was too much. It was too over the top.
Wow.
Didn't want it in the film. And Gene Wilder says he goes into this meeting and he's like angry because he's absolutely convinced it's going to be brilliant. And he goes into this meeting with Mel and he's just really, really like basically going, fuck you, I'm going to quit if we don't have this in. He's really, really passionate about it. And he says he's waiting for Mel to fight back. And Mel goes, all right, it's in. And he goes, what? I thought you were going to argue with me. And Mel goes, I don't have an opinion on it either way. I didn't know if it was good or bad. I wanted to see how hard you were willing to fight for it. If you believe in it that much, then it's in. Yeah. I trust.
There's some insight.
Your comedic instincts, It's
yeah.
And then later on, Mel's going, and it was brilliant. He was right. I was wrong. It's absolutely
right. Oh no,
so great. Such a great scene.
I got to go watch that movie.
But if you haven't seen Mel Brooks's film, there's all of his film
history of the world.
Yeah, your cultural references? It's good to be the king. That means nothing to you.
Demonet. Fucking hilarious.
Fastest gun in the West. You want to see it again?
You see this hand? Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
But I shoot with this hand.
This is my shooting hand. What I didn't realize until I watched the documentary, though, is Mel had all of this success very early on when he was writing for Sid Caesar's TV show. But then he didn't want to write for TV forever. So he kind of quit, got fired. He left Sid Caesar.
Right.
And then he could not work. And he was broke, skint for years.
Oh, wow.
Meets Anne Bancroft. She's successful. So he's basically living off of her income. He cannot get arrested in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And then somebody approached him with Get Smart as a project. So he was brought in. He and Buck Henry were brought in to write Get Smart. It wasn't his idea. Yeah, I always assumed that it was his idea and he was successful and he did Get Smart.
It's so him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did
Get
not know that.
Smart gave him a job. It rescued him. And it was through the
Right.
success of Get Smart that he was able to make The Producers, which was a flop. Like
Right.
the
Right.
reviews for like Springtime for Hitler, like
Yeah.
making jokes about Hitler, like was
Yeah. We just want to forget it.
the reviews were
Yeah.
horrible. That was a flop. Then he made 12 Chairs, which
Yeah.
was a flop. So his first two films were flops. Get Smart only lasted a couple of years. That was over. And he was completely desperate and skint. And a
I had no
producer
idea.
approached him. He said, I've got this script for a comedy Western called Black Bart. And Mel says in the documentary, in one of the interviews, he says, I said, no, I only do my own material. The guy says, I can pay you. When do we start?
That's Mel.
And then he
That's
brought
him.
in, but he figured it would be a flop and no one would ever see it. And he brought in Richard Pryor and he brought in a team of Sid Caesar writers. And then he said, we just threw every joke. There was he said, somebody said to him, a producer said to him, if you're going to walk up to the bell, ring it.
Oh,
So
I like that.
He was like,
like
I'm
that.
just going to throw every gag, every joke. Nothing was off, the table.
Right. We
That's
don't need
why
no
it is
stinky
just
badges.
wall to wall,
Yeah,
stupid jokes.
Gags. Boom, 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 boom,
Fart
boom, boom.
jokes
Yeah.
with the cowboys sitting around eating the beans.
Fart of the fire. Yeah. Everything.
And all of the N-word jokes in it. Like they interviewed Dave Chappelle, and Dave Chappelle's like saying, people say you couldn't make that film today. You couldn't make that film then. Like in the early 70s, no one could get away with that film. His only get out of jail free card was, Richard Pryor wrote all of the jokes. And he said Richard Pryor forced him to do it. Richard Pryor was like, we're going to hold a mirror up to America's hypocrisy about racism, and not only racism, but, the treatment of minorities in general, women, Jews, etc.
Oh, I got to see this. Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, it's really great. So check it out.
All right. So where do we leave Castro?
Richard Nixon's assessment of Castro is where we finished.
Oh, there we go.
That
yeah.
He thought he was naive about communism, naive about economics, but agrees he had the indefinable qualities as a leader and that he was going to be a big force in Cuba and Latin America. So he was right about that.
I don't want to take the last word from you, but in less than a year after the April visit, President Eisenhower will order the CIA to begin arming and training a group of Cuban exiles to attack Cuba. So I guess at some point they decide he's really not our man. Let's see if we can get rid of him.